Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Stone. I'm your host, Robert Runyon. Today, I'm gathered by Michael from IPQualityScore, and we're going to teach you how to take the headache out of fraud prevention with a suite of powerful tools. Michael, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to catch up with you since Affiliate Summit West. So give me a little bit of background about you and about IPQualityScore.
Yeah, so my name is Michael. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I've been working with IPQualityScore now pretty much since the beginning, ever since we launched. We actually started well over 10 years ago, but became more of a public-facing company just about 4.5 years ago. So everything's going great.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. So tell me a little bit about IPQualityScore. You've been working with them for a while now. What exactly do they do? What do they help with?
Yeah, so we actually started off as an ad network. Previously, we were called AdWork Media. It was more of a content locking, incentive offer-based affiliate network. And IPQS was actually the internal solutions that we built out to protect that ad network. There wasn't a lot of reliable data sources, as well as just different tech that was out there to protect from things like bot traffic, high-risk users, fake form submissions, payments or fraudulent payments, and just other things that you see when you're doing or running that type of business. And it's now grown, and we're working with companies of all shapes and sizes. I work with, obviously, the affiliate space, but I'm working with casinos, e-commerce platforms, social networks, banks, pretty much anyone who has either the need to monitor traffic quality or form submissions, right? Like lead gen. And then on the other side of it, it's going to be people registering for accounts, people applying for things, people logging in, people making payments. So these different vulnerable touch points that customers are interacting with are primarily the places that we help.
And one thing you discussed right there was payments. So are these low risk payments, high risk payments, anything in particular that IPQualityScore helps with?
So there's a lot of different things that we help with. It doesn't matter whether it's a low risk payment or a high risk payment. The practice behind what we're doing is going to be identical. And when someone is going to be doing something abusive, there's going to be a pattern that we pick up on. So, that's really where we focus. We focus on IP reputation, device fingerprinting, email validation, phone validation. We also do malicious URL scanning. So think like a blog, or if you have a place where customers can post comments on your site and they're posting links, it could be a phishing link. We can detect that. And then we're also doing some identity stuff where we're appending data, looking to see if data submitted for, let's say, a loan application, does the name correlate with the address in the email and the phone number submitted? Does all that information belong together? Was that information stolen, right? These are difficult things to detect, but we're able to catch that.
Oh, that's really nice. So Michael, IPQualityScore has a significant reputation. They've built this up in the fraud prevention industry for quite some time. So what separates you from other competitors that you have?
Yeah, so we're a data company first and foremost. So whenever I'm speaking to a customer, that's the first thing that I want them to understand. And when you are a data company, the thing that's going to separate you from anybody else is going to be the quality of your data. For us, what we've done that's different is we don't actually buy data. We are out there generating data ourselves in real time. We have what's referred to as a honeypot network. It's a network of around 10,000 different web entities. Think different. They're basically honeypots, they're traps. And so they're incentivizing fraudsters to come interact with them. When they come and interact with them, we collect their data. They don't know that's happening, but what that allows us to do is have very real-time data coming into our system that our customers can then use to predict that, hey, this is actually a fraudulent application. Hey, this payment is going to lead to a chargeback. This is a stolen credit card being used. Don't let this person open this account, that type of thing. One of the very unique things that we're doing with that is the scale of it. We're generating over 1 billion threat reports every day just with our honeypot network. What that allows us to do is keep the data very fresh. We don't hold data typically for longer than 24 to 48 hours because we really don't care what happened before that. We want to know what happened right now. And what we see is a trend in this industry is that a lot of companies are out there just compiling data from a bunch of different sources. And it creates what I would refer to as an inconsistent data environment where you're saying, okay, look, we have data from this IP address coming from 5 months ago. We have data from this IP address coming from 2 months ago. That creates an inconsistency where there's going to be false positives, there's going to be false negatives. We don't have to worry about that because we know exactly where the data originates from. We know exactly what was happening on that piece of data, and then how we report it and how we translate that action or that abusive action to the customer is very consistent. So we're cutting down significantly on false positives. We're catching all the newest stuff that's out there. And another very cool thing that we've done with this huge database that we have, and again, that database is primarily going to be IPs, devices, emails, phone numbers, identity information, and a few other things, but having this vast, very real-time database has allowed us to leverage it. So we're working with pretty much every large corporation that you could imagine who's consuming that data, but they're also sending us their real-time threat feeds. So we have our very real-time honeypot network generating data, and then we have, think of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the world. Pretty much every one of them is sending us their abuse data, and then that data is combined and then translated into, say, a JSON response that think about an e-commerce platform, right? A customer comes and they want to open an account so they can go purchase something. In real time, when they do that, I'm taking their IP address and I'm sending back a JSON response telling them, where is that IP coming from, right? So the geolocation, I can tell you the exact latitude, longitude of them. Is it coming through a specific internet service provider? Different ones are typically more abusive. Frontier, Cox. We see a lot of residential proxies on those.
So basically what you're saying is it's kind of similar to like local SEO, which is like name, address, phone number, but you're matching that data, which is like hundreds of data points actually, on a single customer at a given time within their last 24 to 48 hour transaction history. Is that correct?
Sort of. Well, what we're doing is when a user comes and wants to interact, let's just use e-commerce platforms as an example. When a user comes to interact with them, we're looking at their IP, and off of that, so there's a few things, right? When they register, it's going to be an IP address and or a device fingerprint. And then typically they're required to use an email and a phone number to open the account. So based off of those data points, I can return back to you with 99% accuracy, whether it is a high-risk user, whether it's stolen information, whether it's a duplicate, and things like that. So it works very well. And as I mentioned before, the real-time nature of the data and our approach to it has proven to be probably the most accurate that's out there today.
Well, you mentioned the honeypot network. So as you know, industries are different. So what kind of industries are you working with at IPQualityScore? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so there's a few different parts to what we do. Just because we have so much offer, we are a full service platform. A lot of our customers are coming from using 4 different vendors to do what my platform can do all in one place. So we're working with e-commerce platforms. I'm working with social networks. I'm working with casinos. I'm working with banks. Anybody who has accounts being created, logins taking place, or payments happening on the platform is going to be the primary function of our data. On the other side of that, the affiliate industry is huge as well. So that would be monitoring traffic quality, validating leads. And then on the other side of it is going to be email marketing. So, you know, it's a very large, diverse group of customers. And with that also makes our data better, because most of the companies out there today are working with just like one niche. We work with every one of them. So we're getting data from all these different niches, and we're seeing all the fraud rather than just the fraud from one place.
So let's talk about an e-commerce platform. Somebody comes to you, it's like, hey, IPQualityScore, hey, Michael, you know, I've got this problem. How is IPQualityScore going to help them? You know, what are the primary functions of your data and tools?
So like I said before, the main areas, and this is something that I repeat to my customers a bunch of times, because there's a lot of different areas we can help, but to identify a good customer for us is logins, registrations, logins, payments. Those are going to be the main areas we help. So there's a wide area of, or a large group of customers that we can work with. But for an e-commerce platform, let's just go through a use case of a registration. So a user comes to, let's just use, for example, an eBay, right? You have to log in or register for eBay before you can make a purchase. When you do register, the first thing that our APIs are going to do are pull a bunch of data either from your device, or we're going to take your IP and send data back to eBay that they can use to then make a real-time decision and prevent somebody from registering with a bot and making a bunch of fake accounts, or registering with a high-risk VPN. Those are different things that lead to fraud. So that first touch point is going to be the registration, either doing the fingerprint or the IP check. With the fingerprint's a more accurate tool than just looking at an IP address, because there's more data involved. The fingerprint looks at about 300 data points on the device. So it's a JavaScript-based tool or an SDK for mobile apps. It pulls those data points off the device, and then we can create a tracking ID. So that prevents duplicates.
So Michael, you were talking about your data and, you know, all the different softwares and all the different checks and balances and things that IPQualityScore does. Do you have any examples that you could show of like maybe even the honeypot network, or how that you sort and filter this data, whether it be from the IP location itself or the mobile thumbprint?
Yeah, so I actually have a visual to show that I show pretty much whenever I'm talking to any customers about what the honeypot network looks like. This is a live feed of that honeypot network, and it shows where all the different actions coming from. In each one of these different regions, you can see an abuse velocity, essentially how much fraud is taking place in these different geos. It also shows the different types of threats that we're seeing, whether it's a residential proxy or a botnet, which is one of the biggest fraud trends that's out there today. Abusive Tor connections, which are dark web connections, bots, fraudulent transactions, invalid, disconnected, or abusive phone numbers, as well as the same thing for emails. We do also show the volume of data we're connecting on this graph here between the honeypots, which is around 1 billion threat reports daily, versus Fraud Fusion, which is our shared data and our partner data. Those are all the big companies that are feeding data back to us. So this is a pretty cool graphic for customers to see.
And where do you see the most amount of cyber threats? You know, is it in a specific region, or does it vary from day to day? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the thing about that is most of the fraud is being originated from different fraud rings, which are coming from different geos. A lot of it's coming from places like Vietnam, China, Nigeria. That's where a lot of the more sophisticated fraud is happening. And a lot of that sophisticated fraud is coming through residential proxy connections. So that's probably something that a lot of people don't know about. It's one of the biggest fraud trends that's out there right now, and it's one of the major focuses that we have. We're by far the leaders in catching this type of connection.
That was really neat, Michael. Thank you for walking me through that. So you mentioned a residential proxy. What's the difference between a residential proxy and some of those other parameters that you have?
Yeah, so residential proxies, like I said, are by far the leading source of fraud. They're enabling fraudsters to essentially be on a connection that's undetectable as a proxy. We are the only company that's out there today that's consistently catching them. And what a residential proxy is essentially your computer is infected with malware. It enables someone else to tunnel into your network and then use your computer like a bot and make it look like, let's say somebody wants to do an account takeover with a bank, or somebody wants to use a stolen credit card. They can essentially use your residential connection, your residential IP, right? I have AT&T Uverse at my house. If my device had malware on it that was facilitating a residential proxy, someone else could tunnel in, use my network to go do the actions to do that account takeover. It would look like a clean residential connection, but at the end of the day, it's actually a residential proxy that someone else is doing fraudulent behaviors behind.
And the details wouldn't match up, so you would catch that to help prevent the fraud, correct?
Well, the way that we're detecting them, we really don't share just because no one else is able to do it currently. But there are different ways to catch it. A lot of it is coming through very sophisticated honeypots, where we're learning a lot about the different discrepancies between a residential connection that's clean and one that's been infected with malware.
That's a really unique way to be able to catch fraudsters. What are some of the other hot trends that are going on right now to be able to prevent any kind of fraud on the internet?
Yeah, so another big trend would be either disposable emails or disposable phone numbers. When I talk to a lot of customers, one of the things that I do recommend them doing is requiring a phone number upon registration. The difference between an email and a phone number is that you can go and create a brand new Gmail. There's not going to be any way to detect that as being a risky email because there's no data on it. With a phone number, you can't just go make a new phone number. You would actually have to go to, say, AT&T, right, and get a new phone or buy a burner phone. Or the other options are a disposable phone number or a VoIP. So VoIP would be something like Skype or Google Voice. These are digital numbers, right? So there's not a way for someone to just go make a new phone number that isn't going to be something that we can catch. So I do suggest any type of platform that has registrations or payments happening, make sure you require a phone number because that's going to be a really big signal.
So that's really interesting about requiring a phone number on the registration. What other things is IPQualityScore doing to help?
So let me share my screen again real quick. So when a registration is taking place, what we really suggest you doing is actually running a device fingerprint or an IP reputation check on the user. That's the first check that's going to alert you, is this a high risk new user trying to get access to your platform? Based off of just an IP address, this is a sample of what I'd be able to return to you in real time, which is going to be about 20 milliseconds. So it's essentially instantaneous. You're going to learn exactly where that user is coming from. You're going to learn, is it coming through a certain internet service provider? Certain internet service providers are riskier than others, believe it or not. Is it coming through a specific organization? So if this was coming through an office tied to eBay, right, it would say eBay, or Amazon, it would say Amazon. That can kind of make things look more legitimate. We're also going to tell you, is it coming through a proxy connection, a VPN connection, a dark web connection? These are good things to be aware of, but they're not necessarily going to be yes or no determining factors because a lot of people like to use them for privacy focused reasons, right? So what we do to distinguish between a high risk proxy or one that would be low risk is going to be looking at the abuse, any type of behavior on it. Again, coming from the last 24 to 48 hours that we're seeing on the honeypot network or from our data partners. And have we seen any bot activity on it, the velocity of the abuse, the connection type, and then we return back a score from 0 to 100 that allows this consumption of the data to be very simple, right? It's going to come down to, if the score is greater than or equal to a certain value, then you would block the user or prevent them from doing something. So that's typically how this is going to be used. So this is the first option for registrations.
And that all works in real time.
Exactly. And then the second option for registrations is going to be a device fingerprint. IP is also included in the fingerprint, and this is a more advanced way to score a user. The reason is that it's actually a JavaScript pixel rather than which is pulling data off the device in real time rather than just using one data point, which is the IP and the user agent, for example, to make the decision. And then the data I just showed you, this is going to pull about 300 more data points in real time off the device. we can take those data points and create a tracking ID. So if this device ever shows up again, we know it's that same person. You can prevent that device from creating multiple accounts. You can block them entirely. And that would be the first part of the fingerprint. The second part would be our real-time pattern recognition. So we're running checks against the device based off of those data points we pulled. For example, if the operating system is displayed as Windows, what we're going to be able to do is run a test on the device saying, okay, if you're a Windows device, you're going to be able to pass this Windows test. If it fails it, we're going to learn that it's being spoofed. We'll then run additional checks. And a lot of times what you'll see is that it's actually a Linux device using some type of emulator software. They're spoofing the device, they're spoofing the location, the MAC ID, and it's just a very, very sophisticated user, but they can't get by this.
And one thing I was going to ask about the device ID tracking, is there certain parameters and things that you can set up to automatically send those users to a blacklist, so that way in the future, if you ever encounter their IP address or device ID ever again, that they will never ever be able to access or check out?
Yeah, exactly. And those, we refer to those as custom rules, where you can blacklist or whitelist specific IPs or devices. And it's a really common thing to do. So, this tool has a lot of different uses, and that's definitely one of the cool ones.
So that's really cool, Michael. So a user comes in, they start to register, and you have their IP, you have their mobile device thumbprint. What else are you doing exactly?
Yeah, so the next steps in the process would be validating their email and or their phone number. So what you can see right here on my screen is actually a sample of what we'd be doing when we're scoring that user's email. In real time, we're pinging the server, telling you whether or not it's a valid email or not. We're also catching any type of disposable emails, which are essentially emails that you can, if you Google disposable email, you can go to a disposable service. They will give you an email and they'll give you an inbox that a bunch of people share. It's a way to get past that authentication code that gets sent. It would just go to that public inbox and you just go find your code. So those are very common for duplicate accounts, payment fraud, and other things. We're also looking to see, have we seen any abuse on this email coming from the honeypots or the data partners? Has it been involved in a data leak? The age of the email, inboxing scores as well. So there's a lot of good data here. Those
are really clear details on the email. So tell me about a phone number. What exactly are you doing with their phone numbers as soon as they click submit?
Yeah, so with the phone number, it's very similar to the emails. It's just a different data set that we return. Again, we're pinging the phone in real time. We're pinging the tower and essentially calling the phone without calling it. So we're going to learn whether it's an active line or not, right? So if you call it, is it going to ring essentially? And then we're looking at the behavior of that number in the past. Has there been any abuse reported to it, or have we seen any abuse from it? Is it a VoIP? So think Skype number, Google Voice. These are digital numbers. They're always going to be higher risk than, say, a wireless number. Is it a prepaid phone? Is it a disposable number? And then we can append the name data. So people on the account, the carrier, the line type, has it been involved in a data leak, the geo information, and or is the phone on or off? So there's a lot of different data here, but to recap the registration process, it's going to be an IP or a device fingerprint followed by the email and the phone validation. And by doing those checks, you're going to have a 99% accuracy rate of, getting an idea as to whether or not it's an authentic user or someone coming to abuse your platform.
Michael, that is really, really, really cool. I'm not going to lie. And if I had my own e-commerce business and I had hundreds of customers, checking out or creating registrations, and I, obviously I'd be doing email marketing, this IPQualityScore would be a perfect fit for me. So in closing, what final thoughts do you have? Do you have any recommendations or best practices on fraud prevention?
I would just make sure that if you're talking to a company in my space, make sure that you ask them where the data comes from. You don't want to work with a company that is out there buying data from a bunch of different sources. You want someone who generates their own data, who has complete control over it, who knows where it came from, when it came from, what's happening on it, And you also want to make sure that you're working with a company that works with many different industries. You don't want to work with one that only has data coming from a certain sector, right? You want it to be vast, because fraud doesn't just stick to one place, it's all over. And those are going to be some best practices for picking a company. Additionally, don't get locked into a long-term contract. If you work with us, there is no contract. If you need to upgrade a plan, downgrade a plan, cancel it, we're very flexible. And we're not here to just lock you in and hold you hostage. No, we're designed to be very user-friendly, having excellent reports or excellent support, the best data that's out there, and also prices that are fair. Our prices are designed to work from a mom and pop Shopify e-commerce platform all the way up to the largest companies in the world. So this is an industry that a lot of people get intimidated by, and they think they need to pay a ton of money for it. That's not true. Our platform is here designed to empower the smaller user as well as the big ones. The data quality is the same, regardless of the size of your company.
Wow, Michael, I didn't know that fraud prevention was so overwhelming. I know we covered a lot of things here, and if somebody listening or viewing right now needed help to prevent fraud actively on their website, how would they be able to get in contact with you or IPQualityScore?
Yeah, so they can just go to IPQualityScore.com or IPQS.com. Either one works. And we actually have a free account available. So you can register and get up to 5,000 free API calls a month, and you can test IPs and emails for free. So that's typically where our customers start from. And it's a great place for anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about our data. That's really where I would suggest them going. Just IPQS.com and create a free account.
For those interested in fraud prevention, I'll leave a link in the description box below this video to IPQualityScore's website, as well as a link to create an account for those 5,000 free API calls every single month. Michael, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm getting ready to go start my e-commerce business, so I'm going to head on over to IPQualityScore's website, and I'm going to register for a free account right now.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to having you as well, and thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. If you really want to level up your e-commerce strategy, then watch this video next. It's called 5 Proven E-commerce Marketing Strategies to 10x Your Business. You'll learn insider secrets from Tanner Tozan and CEO Adam Weiler on how to scale 7- and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. Just click on your video and I'll see you on your screen now.